because it's taking my mic up for you. Oh, we're live on the YouTube.
Can you see it?
Yeah. It says webinar is now streaming live to YouTube. And taking my mic up for you.
Perfect. All right, let me give it a couple seconds for people to jump on and then we'll get started. Can you see it?
Yeah. It says webinar is now streaming live to YouTube.
All right, let me make my notes.
My mom watched the other two episodes. She said, "You just sit there and smile. That's all you do."
Again, that's about entrepreneurship. Here we go. All right, here we go. Islam. My name is Sister S. Johnson Eel, member of Temple 71. I first would like to welcome you to our third episode of Moor Perspective, where we will be talking about entrepreneurship. And just to start off this session, I just wanted to give you an instruction from our Quran, and it is, the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, and he appointed to everyone his portion, and what measure seemeth good unto himself. I provide this instruction to you from the Holy Quran of the Moor Science Temple of America to start our conversation about entrepreneurship, and just let you know that Allah has not given life to anything that does not have a gift. Everything he has created has come with a gift that is basically to uplift humanity. So today we want to explore, what is your gift? How do you find it? And how do you possess it and use it? And so I want to introduce my co-host, Sister A. Johnson Bay.
Islam, y'all.
Islam.
I'm Sister A. Johnson Bay from Temple number 55, Hope, Indiana. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself than I have in the previous episodes, because I am a part of this episode as a guest as well. So many of you may know I'm an engineer. What you don't know is that I went to school for 8 years to get a 4-year degree. So why was that? I was full-time. I was majoring in education. I was struggling. And when I finally got into the classroom, I realized that's not what I want to do for a living. I was pretty dis- distraught over that because I had finally chosen a major after just taking some general ed courses. So that delayed me. And I decided, well, if I don't want to go into math education, at least I can get a mathematics degree. So again, that proved to be a little harder because I was struggling with calculus, Calc 3, Calc 4. So finally, I gave into engineering. And once I got into engineering, I was able to get my degree and get out of college. Now, what's important about college? What was important about college to me is I was consistently looking for ways to earn money and not have to get a job. But my entrepreneurial spirit kept being held back by fear. I was always afraid. And I would see all these people. One guy had a karaoke stand. And I thought, man, this guy isn't even that bright. And he's doing his own business. He has a karaoke stand. He has a restaurant. And I just felt like, I could do it, but it's late at night. And he has to work from dusk to dawn. So always there was an excuse. So then I got out of college. I got my engineering jobs at Chrysler. I was in quality. Still, I would talk with people, and anyone that had a business, I would talk to them. The main one was Jeff Carney. He ended up being my insurance. So I got life insurance with him outside of my job, just to kind of put along with it, because my concern was when I got to work at Chrysler, people who had gotten the job said, hey, I'm still working. And I'm like, why are you still working? And they're like, oh, my pension. If anyone that knows about GM, Ford, and Chrysler, there's a big scandal with all their pensions. And a lot of people were supposed to retire after 30 years were still working. So it just really felt unfair to me. And I was really looking for a way to take control of my own financial future and be a little bit more of an entrepreneur. So my financial guy, my insurance guy, he had owned a Blippies. He advised me on that. He was like, that was one of the worst decisions. He's like, I'm glad I did it because I learned from it. But at the same time, he was like, it was a money pit, and so that gave me the sight that just because someone has a name brand restaurant, even if it's franchisable, doesn't mean you're making the income that you want. So when we think I want to be an entrepreneur, we don't always think about what that means. When the prophet says know thyself, understand what you want to be. I would almost say, let's redefine it and say, what do you want? So Jeff Carney helped me think of that. What do I want? So then I was like, I really want freedom more than anything. So we worked through my life insurance, and I always kind of went and blew things off at him. So let's just fast forward 20 years, a bunch of engineering jobs. And I was in Virginia on Moor's Home number 1. And I got a text message that they had laid off 30 engineers, and I got scared. I was like, man, if they laid me off, they're probably not going to tell me. They'll probably do it like via text message. So I really had to do some inner look and say, what are you going to do financially to be a little more stable and have a little more control? My big brother Calvin mentioned real estate. Finally, I heard an entrepreneurial type idea that fit me. I felt comfortable with getting a duplex. I was shopping around for multifamily home. I found a duplex. I rented out. I closed on the loan and I got fired 2 months later. And I was ecstatic because between unemployment and getting a tenant on the other side of my duplex, all my bills were covered. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship. So yes, I struggled in school, like many of you watching may have, and many people we know. I'm not the best student. I'm bright in many ways, but I'm not. School didn't come easy to me. I don't read well. Is that the word? Good. So I don't read so good. So I've really learned my strengths. Engineering is a strength of mine. And I've been able to use that in my entrepreneurship with the houses, being able to find cheaper ways, more efficient ways to do things with our properties. And then once I met Sister K. Jones Bay, I've been able to employ my engineering skills as it comes to not just engineering, but through my profession, I also had a lot of business management and being able to quantify data prior to making business decisions. So I've also been able to apply those skills in our businesses. So I just wanted to give myself a little longer of an introduction, just to give you a little background before we get into this conversation about my journey of what the word entrepreneurship means and how I got there and what worked for me. And with that, I will introduce Sister Kay Jones Bay, who I will say is a true entrepreneur and didn't have to, we'll let her speak. Sister Kay Jones Bay, go ahead.
Islam. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on, and praise Allah for being able to be here. So what entrepreneurship means to me is basically you got to figure out, like Sister A. Johnson Bay is, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is it that you want? And we're fortunate as Moorish Americans that our principals have kind of figured that out for us. Because there's two guiding principles that I can tell you with that happened to me with I was an entrepreneur before, but then after joining the temple, it's two things that I discovered. So with keeping our principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, there's two things in there. There's the peace and the freedom. And like she said, you have to kind of figure out when you're going down the entrepreneurship road, what is it that you want? There's 3 levels to this. Like some people, they basically they want to be an entrepreneur to achieve wealth. There's some that want to be an entrepreneur to achieve recognition. Some want both, the fame and the recognition. And then some think that they need the wealth, or they want to be an entrepreneur just so that they can have the freedom and just make enough money to survive and live. So it's all about knowing what it is that you want. And that is the first thing, and I can tell you from doing it backward, that's the first advice that I can give, that when you're going down that road to figure out, what entrepreneurship really means, you got to really know yourself and figure out what it is that you want to do. But for me, it's the 2 principles that just stood out and that the Moorish Science Temple of America have, and that is peace and freedom. That is why I do this. I now do it with a different purpose.
Yeah, and that's really allowed us to guide these businesses. So one reason I kept being shy, at first I beat myself up, and I still kind of talk a little negatively about how long it took me to get into the entrepreneurship game. But really, it was a matter of finding something that fit me, because every idea I had wasn't giving me peace and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care to cook. So even though I could have gotten to a restaurant, that's waking up, prepping food and cooking all day, and at the end of the day doing the books. So even if I could have been successful and rich, I didn't feel like that was giving me my peace and my freedom. So for me, real estate and just renting a multifamily home, buying one and renting out one side and living the other, provided me with peace and freedom. And for me, that was a great level of entrepreneurship for me. Because I was literally unemployed, bills covered, you understand, sister? And it's like, that's what I wanted. But then I wasn't done, obviously. You can't help much in many more people than just yourself at that level.
Yeah. Go ahead, sister. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that because one of the things for me is I always wanted to be in a position where I could give back or give in more to, my family. And I wanted to be able to, for my mother and my father to be able to be old, grow in their older years and not have to worry. It's so many people that is, over the age of 60 and they're still having to work, and people that are, in their 70s and still having to work a 9 to 5. And I felt as a young person that they helped me, in my pursuit. So I wanted to always be able to take care of my family in some type of way. So that's the thing that, everybody has whatever drives you, whatever causes you to want wealth or money or entrepreneurship, whatever it is that or even working at a job and excelling at that. You got to find out what your reasons, and that was mine. But then I learned that in order to attain that, it doesn't take, I thought that I had to be this $20 million and this multi-millionaire and have all these things and run myself crazy. And I learned that simplifying your goals is one of the keys. And then the prosperity just comes.
Mhm.
When you have a purpose and you work towards it, the prosperity is just a consequence of an action. So that part comes very easy. And when I say prosperity, I include money in that, because I mean that's part of why we do things to attain money. Nothing's wrong with that, but it comes automatically when you're not chasing it. So that's the one thing that I learned from being an entrepreneur, is that you gotta be guided. You gotta trust in Allah, and you got to really know yourself and know what it is that you're wanting. And then once you have that purpose, then align it with the works that you do.
So when did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I
We're both
think
wondering that, right?
I think once I think that, my mother always told me you were just born with this, and I learned later that I probably was born, but I didn't mind working for someone. The problem came when I felt like I gave my all to a corporation and it wasn't a win-win for me. So when I gave my all to the corporation and then my job was constantly dangled like a carrot, and I don't like the unknown. I don't do well with that. I don't like to know that someone's in control of my destiny. I don't like to know that I don't know if I'm going to be having money the next week or not if I don't have a job. I don't like to be in a predicament where, someone else is in control of me. And I felt like a job for me was doing that. So that's when I really woke up, when I was being paid a lot of money, and then all of a sudden, all of it can be taken away from me in a day.
Mhm.
When I finally realized that, I knew that whatever that was from my childhood that my mom says I had that, well, I knew that I needed to follow that journey or that path.
Before you got into a job, I have a little bit of an advantage. I know her.
What do you think?
Apologize if I take over the question. Jones Bay. You, as a child, even prior to these jobs and finding that out about yourself, you found yourself in another country and still getting paid. How did that happen?
Oh, so when I was when I was younger, I was so intrigued with learning a second language. I started taking Spanish classes and I just got obsessed with it, right? So I wanted to speak Spanish so bad. My family history is French, and so I didn't really like French, so I stuck with Spanish. During that time, I got to know a lot of exchange students. So then my house, my mother and my father, we became an exchange student host family. So with the exchange students living with us, and I mean, we were hosting my whole high school time, we had exchange students in and out our home. Well, I end up befriending one of them, and I went to visit her for her graduation. While I was there for the graduation, I just happened to be talking. To someone at the graduation, and that person spoke English, because here we are in Mexico. That's where she was from. So I found myself in deep South Mexico. Nobody spoke English, and so you're at a commencement ceremony, and you're like, okay, well, let me see who speaks English here, because So I guess the person wanted to practice their English with me, which was great. So they came over telling me, hi, how are you doing? So you like the schools in Mexico? And I'm like, you guys don't know how to teach English. And, I was like, I don't really like it. We teach English totally different. And I was just bashing the school or not so much the school, but just, just bashing. And so, I went home, everything was good, the commencement ceremony. After that, I guess the family that I was with, the girl, she had to go back, to finish some things up at the school. So I guess she was in the office, and lo and behold, the person that I was speaking to was the dean of the school. And he's like, where's your friend? You were with that American girl? And she's like, yeah. She's like, well, she said something to me. She said that, our school doesn't know what it's doing. So I need to talk to her. So she came back and she's like, what did you tell the dean? Like, what happened? And so then after that, I went on back to the school, end up talking to him, and he's like, well, you know, you said something that struck me, and I want to be good at what we offer. I mean, this is a school. So if you could do something, I say, well, actually, this is how you should be teaching. They were teaching like English in one words instead of teaching like sentences and conjugation. I mean, it was just off. So I said, okay. I ended up writing an 8-semester curriculum for them. I did not know anything about, you know, I was just getting out of high school myself. I didn't know anything, but I went home, I studied, I got my old Spanish teacher to help me, and I wrote a curriculum, submitted it, and then he sponsored me to come and teach as a professor in the college part. And I taught high school during the day, and I taught college classes at night. And I became, you know, an English professor overseas, and I moved to Mexico. That's how I'm bilingual, and I learned Spanish.
And how old were you, sister?
I was 18. I was 18, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even finish college yet. And, you know, these people are I'm teaching college students. So I'm like, okay. So
the probably say he came after industrious Moors, right? That's pretty industrious.
yeah, so it was.
I kind of want to bring it back to kind of something for our audience to talk about a mindset of an entrepreneur. I can speak from my experiences. Basically through the pandemic, I got a degree after degree and was really stuck in working a 9-to-5. And that pretty much was my mindset. Like, I'm going to retire, I have a 401k, I'm going to do this, and this is what it's going to be. But as you can see, due to the pandemic, circumstances happen, and a lot of people are being laid off from their job, me as one, and really trying to figure out what is my next step. A lot of people are looking at entrepreneurship as being their next step. But for many, it's hard to make that transition in the way that you think of how you're going to earn money, how are you going to promote yourself versus how you used to be promoting another company. So I know both of you guys have experience on that. So if you kind of can speak to that.
I think that what happens is when we work a job, there's a sense or a level of security. And, you know, you have a level of security because you have someone else that have the responsibility. That's basically what a job gives you, security, and someone else carries the responsibility. So when you say mindset, sometimes I always say, even if being an entrepreneur, you have to have a mindset, but sometimes we need to have a mind, what I call mind reset, you know, mind reset. And you got to start, it's all about believing in you and what you can do, because as long as that security is there and you're doing the job that, you know, you're being paid to do, it seems like, okay, it's easier. But if you change that same mindset that you have, but now you're working for yourself and you shift that to doing something for you to better you, then, you know, that could be the shift that can help someone. I always say too, Allah has given us gifts. We have gifts and we have talents. And a lot of us sometimes don't recognize what our talents are and what our gifts are. And me, for one, I mean, I think I was doing well. Just because we excel at something doesn't mean that's necessarily our calling or our talent, right? And so I was doing well because of the job that I was in. Okay, great, I excelled at it. But it doesn't mean that it took me a while to figure out what my gift and what my talent was, what my passion was, and also align that with what you like doing. So I think that's the first advice that I would give someone that's wanting to kind of step out of a job role into an entrepreneurship role. There's 3 levels to this. One is you have the job. Okay, great. We know that. The second is have the job and the side hustle. Your side hustle, whatever it is that you decide to get into before you leave your job, make sure you get the side hustle. And when that side hustle can pay you the same way that your job, then you're ready to leave your job. But now you have the freedom because you have your job. That's your security blanket. But now you have your side hustle, which is what you like doing. So the job is paying you, but the side hustle is also paying you, but it's more secure. So if I had to start, if you're afforded that opportunity, do your job and your side hustle. Right. Next, you want to have your side hustle as now you own your side hustle. So now the second step would be own your job, right? Because now you leaving the job, you got your side hustle. Now you've created your own job. So you may have to work in that for a while, You know, a lot of people think that, oh, being an entrepreneur is just one step, like, yo, just go out there. And if you can do it, great. But I say have it planned out. Don't just jump into the water. Learn how to swim first. So, and learn how to swim in a place that you want to be. Why swim in a pond when you want to be on an island? Have fun, you know, do something you like doing. And so then after you own your job, at that point, you got to figure out, you know, and during this time, how much money you want to make and what exactly do you want. Because now you can rid yourself of all the stress and the, you know, being hectic, but you're leaving a job and owning your own job can be the same amount of stress. Now you got to figure out, do I really want to be free? Do I want my time? And then you start exchanging time for money, because money is not going to be as relevant to you, because you're going to start making better decisions. When we have a job, we got security, we go out and buy whatever. I see that purse, I want it. I see that car, I want it. But when you have to depend on you plan better. So as long as you're planning better, you're going to realize, oh, I may not need that, because my time is worth it and I can sit back, and you may enjoy that lifestyle. Or you might feel like I want to get this, that, and the other, and I love the lifestyle that I'm at, and I'm just going to keep hustling, and it's my own time and I'm working the way I want to. So it's all different ways. There's no one way, and there's no wrong way to become an entrepreneur, but you do have to look at all aspects. And I never say just up and leave a job unless you have a good plan.
Right. And my answer to that is, the first thing I like to do is surround myself with like-minded people. You know, we were talking about that mindset before.
Yes.
I'm really talking to my brothers and my cousins and my aunts and my uncles, and they're not doing what I want to do. Sometimes they come up with a nugget. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, a lot of them are in the same mindset I'm in already. So anytime I found myself around someone doing what I want to do, I was all ears. Less of this, and those of y'all know me, I talk. But when I'm around somebody that I want to learn something to, I quit running my mouth and I start listening. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, really, whenever someone tells me they want to be an entrepreneur, the first thing I ask them is, what do they want? Meaning, what do you need per month? What kind of money do you need to get your freedom?
Sustain yourself, yeah.
To sustain yourself, because it helps shape your business. Just because you want to grow a business, how can you scale your business if you're not thinking about the amount of income you need per month? Most people tell me $4,000-5,000 a month. That's actually not very difficult to do as an entrepreneur. So you get all these grand ideas of what you got to do to be an entrepreneur. But if you start with, what do I need to do to make $4,000 a month? You have a lot less in front of you at that point. So you can start, and then you cut it down by the week. That's $1,000 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what can I do in a 5-day week that'll add up to $200 a day to give me the $1,000 a week? That's that engineering mindset of mine. And that's really how I always thought. So when I started looking at real estate, for me, it became a real answer to my dreams, because I just wanted $4,000 or $5,000 a month. 2 duplexes get me that, or a 4-plex, or, you know, so I don't need a lot of real estate to get me to my level of where I wanted to be entrepreneurship wise. When I met Sister S, why I keep calling you S Jones, Sister K Jones Bay, when I met her and I asked her those questions, you know, because I was just intrigued when I met her. She just has an entrepreneur mind, so I had a lot of questions for her. But what surprised me is when I did ask those questions, she actually didn't have the answer. So she was just the entrepreneur that just kept making money,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily directing it where it goes. So now we talk about knowing ourselves and knowing our strengths. That's why business-wise, we really started entangling ourselves, because it made sense. She was able to think beyond just a couple of duplexes. I was able to look at her businesses and just see money going out of them. She brought all this money in and it just kept going out for unnecessary things. So when people say they want to get into entrepreneurship, I would say surround yourself with like-minded people and define what you want. What monetary means do you have to have that carnal salvation, because it's promised for our divine and our promised salvation, right? So we're supposed to have salvation here on earth too. So don't feel like, oh, I can't ask for money. We are here to be industrious, and we are supposed to earn money and help each other rise up as a nation. And anyone else, it doesn't matter if they're in our nation or not. But obviously, Prophet Noble Ali came uplifting our nation. Our nationality was stolen away. Our religion was stolen away. Any businesses that we built up during that time or after that time kept getting burnt down. So now we're here and we're building back up. So you got to ask yourself that and surround yourself. YouTube, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but YouTube is another place where I surround myself with like-minded people. If I don't know them in my life, I started watching YouTube videos.
Praise a lot. And I guess I'm probably a little in the way beginning stages of looking into being an entrepreneurship and really trying to see, do I have it? Just a little bit of my background, like I've pretty much did what society said was the best thing to do. Go to school, get a degree, get a job, get a master's, get a better job, and just try to climb up that corporate ladder to CEO. As I started climbing that ladder, I started to notice that I just was not happy. Like I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was just doing things just to make money. And so in a sort of a way, for me, the pandemic was a blessing because due to the pandemic, I lost my job. In the midst of that, I had time to really examine myself, who I am, who I want to be, and what do I want my life to look like. And I remember when I wasn't a part of the Moor Science Temple of America, and I was following this structure that society says, if you do this, if you do this, if you get this degree, if you get this job, you will be successful and you will be happy. But as I started learning through the Moor Science Temple of America, like know thyself, examining myself, tapping into my heart and finding the treasures of Allah that He has given all of us, then my thoughts started changing. Like, you know, it's just like in chapter 15, when when Jesus says, know your strength and your worthiness. When you go into entrepreneurship, you're really trying to say, do I value myself enough to strive to create something for me?
Right.
Or am I going to be weak and lean on someone else to provide me something? And it's more when you look at your strength, like, am I strong enough to say that I can do this? And for me, it's just like it's like a life journey pursuing entrepreneurship, because you really have to talk about your weaknesses. You really got to talk about your strengths. You really have to be honest with yourself. Like, am I really going to get up at 8 o'clock if I don't have to? Am I really going to go look for vendors if no one's not telling me you got to do this or you won't get paid on Friday? And then saying, I'm probably not going to do that. And being honest with yourself, like, you really have to strive to make these things happen. But for me, it really comes from self-love. Do I love myself enough to put forth the effort to do something for me? And then I found out through learning myself, through more science and being a Moorish American, that when I started loving myself and being able to provide for myself, then I could start providing opportunities for others, like we're doing tonight on this show, to provide our expertise to others, to give them the portion of the light and the understanding that we have, to kind of share what we know. So I guess like what I would like our audience to know is, tell us about some of the challenges that you had as you're pursuing, or you have had as you were pursuing entrepreneurship.
Well, it can be challenging. The first thing I think when we talk about mindset that I've learned in all of this is that when you work a job, it's kind of like when you first apply, or say you're job hunting, because we're always, when we start off, we're job hunting, right? And so you dress up for that interview. A lot of people go out and you get that outfit. I mean, your resume is on point. You put a lot of effort. And then when you get the job, I mean, you're shining. You got to show, like, that first year, you're doing things like, so with entrepreneurship, it's kind of like that, but all the time. So it's kind of like every day you have to be like it's your first day on the job, every day for a long period of time. And it's easy because you don't have anyone counting on you, and you don't have anybody to show off to, because when you're new, no one's checking for you, right? But once your business grows, then it kind of, the benefits come. My mother, I grew up, in a Christian home, and my mother always quoted this scripture where she said, faith without works is dead. So you can talk about it, but so I always, that just stays with me all the time. I feel like you should work smart, but thinking that things are just going to magically appear and we don't put the work in, because you're an entrepreneur and you can, you have your freedom. Sometimes that is the first step of failure, because you don't recognize that it's the first year. I can tell you, you have to put in almost triple what you would do at a job for your own self. You know what I mean? The dedication has to be there, to me. And so some of the challenges, that would be one, because when we get freedom, sometimes we don't know how to be disciplined. Yeah. So making a schedule and sticking to it would be one of the things that I can say can kind of ward off any challenges that you may have when you're trying to shift into that. Once you're there, if you mess up at your job, you're either fired and get another one, or you still have a job. A lot of times with the entrepreneurs, one mess up can have you in a very pickle, as they say. So some of the challenges that I've had I've had everything from merchandise, and I'm not talking about a little bit, like, $50,000 of merchandise stolen. I've been to the point where I was literally 7 months behind on my building rent. And just trying to get it done. And I've had people that came in my life that have really helped me. But it was challenging. I've almost lost my business 2-3 times. I mean, things happen, but the one thing that I can tell you is I still got up every day and I still made that concerted effort. And even when things were like at its worst, I didn't just lay down and give up and say I can. And then when things are going well, so now the money's coming in and you're doing good, you can't take that as a time to just sit back and just do nothing. Oh, I've made it. You always have to consciously be aware of, to follow those goals and still have that discipline. Because it's really easy to, once the money start coming in, to get complacent. So you still have to follow a plan. Maybe you back off a little bit. Maybe it's more relaxing. Yes. But a lot of businesses fail because they don't put the effort. Like, there is no work. Like they say, the work is done. And that's not the truth. Just like you get up and go to a job, maybe you get up and you work less, but I work in my business at least, once a day. I might take off 2-3 days, but I'm checking my bank account. You got to follow up with your clients. You have to follow up with, your employees. There's responsibilities, and there's more responsibilities with being an entrepreneur, and just having a schedule. That's the biggest thing I can tell you can help you ward off on failures. Also, there will be failures, expect them. But one thing I don't call them failures, I call them learning lessons. Because what you do is you take whatever lesson, even when the money was stolen. Now, guess what? My contracts are better. They're written better. I didn't just say, oh, they stole my stuff, I'm done. No, I just go to an attorney and say, how can I make this better? Or I look it up myself and say, okay, what did I do, wrong? And how can I help this not happen again? So in entrepreneurship, you are going to start welcoming mistakes because it makes your business better for the next client and for the next venture.
And a lot of this training comes from your job. A lot of us have
Absolutely.
been in jobs that they tell us that. So use your job to train yourself for your entrepreneurship. When I met Sister Kay Jones, she said something that I resonated with because I did the same thing she did. When we were in our work environment, both of us took it so seriously because we took it as someone paying us to learn how to run a business. Learn any and everything you can at your job. Do any and everything they ask you to do. Do more than they ask you to do. Because you're learning and you're challenging yourself. Don't worry about, oh, that ain't my job. Who cares? If they ask you to do it and you feel like you can learn and grow from it, do it. Because at the end of the day, that you don't understand what sometimes the positions you're in and what you're learning and how it can help you later. I mean, so what? I didn't necessarily want to be an engineer, It's one of the things that's helping me with my business the most. It's helping me and Sister K Jones Bay with our businesses the most is my engineering experience. It's saved us many times. But the fact that we didn't sit and be complacent last year is what helped us during this pandemic this year. So when we had hard times, we went 9 weeks with no rental income, right? That was a lot of money lost. But our tea business picked up, and we're able to start concentrating on that and private labeling. But I want to read from the Holy Koran. Jesus teaches the common people at a spring, tells them how to obtain eternal happiness. Verse 6 says, toil should not make a person sad. Men should be happiest when they toil. When hope and love are back of toil, then all of life is filled with joy and peace. And this is heaven. Do you not know that such a heaven is for you? That's what Jesus told the common people. I have been here on 4th of July with my family at my house, and my tenants called and said they ain't have hot water. My uncle got in the truck with me, Uncle Elihu, Brother E. Johnson Bay, Grand Sheik, Temple number 55. We drove down to the property, and it was fun. We had a good time down there. We're cranking the wrenches and stuff. We come back. I have put 16-hour days physical labor into my property sometimes. And I'm joyous doing it because I've done it for companies before and just to have them turn around and try to fire me. So when if you don't know how to enjoy what you're building, you're automatically attracting some stuff. You need to understand if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to enjoy working to build your dreams and understand that you're working towards that.
And another thing I can tell you, and speaking of the challenges, you have to view every challenge. And this is when you start getting into gratitude, because people might think I sound, crazy, but every challenge was like a rebirth. It brought on something new and better. Every challenge, every loss that I had, I can guarantee you it brought on something new and better. And I'll tell you why. The merchandise that was stolen, it's like almost 50,000. The business was, ending. I was like, what am I going to do? You know what that rebirth? It rebirthed the salon suite. Because had I not lost that money and the merchandise, then I wouldn't have made that shift out of necessity. Because I got all this space and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with all this space? I found myself in all this space. And it made me thought outside of the box. Every challenge brings on a new birth, like a new you. It's like the clothing is stripped off and you have new garb. And you have a chance to start over. And so I always view it as that. The one thing that happened too, I was always just upset about was I had to own a piece of real estate and I was forced to sell it because, I couldn't deal with it anymore. And it was just some family issues. And I just was forced to sell it, for the sake of the story. So, but then I started thinking, well, it really wasn't a loss because had I not sold that real estate, I wouldn't have got the money to help put into the business that I was losing and was able to catch up on the rent to save that business. And now it's, it's a salon suite business. And now, we're opening our second location. Now, had I not went through all of that, then what? You know what I mean? I wouldn't have opened up to those challenges. During that time, I had a, shady business partner. Now, when the next business, I didn't know, this is something I didn't know. The next business partner came with money as an investor, but I was able to fix that deal to where it worked for me and that I just did things differently. Mm-hmm. And so it was a huge benefit because I learned, but had I not went through that experience, I may not have chosen that route. Even with the tea business. So yeah, we found ourselves no income. The pandemic just caused no income, done. But that in itself birthed a private label business that now we're going to be doing business in Kuwait. We have a bunch of internet influencers that we're doing business for. I mean, we're pumping out private labels for, many people. And you know what that also birthed? Me helping others. Because now, and I can tell you in the past 2 months, I've opened successfully and helped successfully other people open 25 businesses. 25 businesses. Now, if I was still doing what I did and we don't have these challenges, would that happen? Would that have happened? I always said in this article, I was just in Voyage Miami magazine and they did a whole review on me and my journey. And in there, I said that, I appreciate the rain now. Because before, we look outside, we're like, oh, it's raining. But understand that that's the only place that a rainbow comes from. If it doesn't rain, have you ever saw a rainbow when there was no rain? It doesn't, that's, ecosystem wise, that's not possible. So it's always a rainbow after rain. That's Allah's way of telling us through his creation that we are going to have challenges in this carnal life. But he promises us and he assures us that we will come through it and that we're built because we have him. We have him as our guide, right? And that's in our prayer. He's our guide, our salvation. We have him. So there goes the rainbow. Don't worry about it. And so as an entrepreneur, we have to remember that. We have to, when we're at our worst and when we're at the most challenging times, we have to remember, as Moorish Americans, we're blessed, like, to even have the teachings that we have, because it puts us in a better position to receive those challenges. I am in a better position this year and being associated with this organization than I was 4 years ago, because I know now I'm equipped. I've been taught. We all have on this call, taught how to handle. So that's why I said, more than anybody, we are fortunate, we're blessed to have these teachings to help us do what, be able to face the challenges that entrepreneurship will bring.
Right.
So we have a couple of questions from the chat. So I kind of want to get to those before we run out of time. So we have about 3 or 4 questions. So the first one is, it's said that your first year is the hardest year when becoming an entrepreneur. How did you ladies build your clientele, and how did you promote your business, or your businesses, actually?
So that is a good question, and I like that question. And a lot of times our clients are right around us, and I started following my own advice. I would start within the people that you know. You'll be surprised. One thing that I do with my clients when they come on, because I do a lot of private label clients now, I tell them, I said, you know what I want you to do? This is one of their first, they get something called a business track. And it tells them where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing. So a lot of them are coming new to entrepreneurs and they've never done this before. And the one thing I tell them, I need you to make a list of everybody that you know and figure out their phone numbers, I don't know, their Facebooks, whatever. But pretend it's your wedding and you can invite anybody you want. Because guess what? This is what happens when people have weddings. You know what the biggest problem at a wedding is? Trying to get the people, the seats down. Because remember, they're charging per person and you can only have this many guests. So the biggest part that a bride has is to try to limit or downsize the guest list. That's the number one problem with the wedding. So if that's the number one problem with the wedding, you know what? That is a good problem for a business, because you don't have to minimize the guest list. You can invite anybody that you want. So pretend this is your wedding, your big day, or this is a special event and you can invite anybody you want. Who would those names be? That is the same names that should be on your list to invite them to partake in your business and you uplifting yourself. That is how I find the first client. And you'll be surprised. And my method works. You'll be surprised. I usually tell them, hey, bring a list of 100. They have been completing a list of like 200, 300 people. I'm like, so now my list in 1 month have went up to 250. That's what's on the new business track. I make sure they do that. So start with the people that you know. You'll be surprised. The next thing that you can do is make sure, because a lot of times we're on Facebook, use social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we post all day about stuff. Post about your business. Post about something that's relevant, that's going to bring money to you. Let people know what you're doing. And you'll be surprised how much traffic that you bring to your own self, by doing that.
And provide free education as well. So when
Absolutely.
You're trying to grow your business that first year, you want to provide education for people, because then that builds trust. So now people trust you, you've given them some information, then they want to buy from you. You might even be more expensive and they still want to buy from you because they trust your product and they trust who's behind it and they want to support you.
And then make sure you're solving a problem. Any business that I get into, I try to figure out what the problem is and how can I solve it. If you're going to be selling, just say creams, for example, I want to sell skin lotion or hand sanitizer. You need to figure out, and that's something so simple, right? Oh, I want to sell like a facial cream, for example. Well, what's the issue? Is it for acne? Is it for dry skin? Is it for eczema? Is it for psoriasis? Figure out what the problem is, and you are the provider of that solution. When we got into real estate, or not real estate, well, real estate in the beauty world, for me, what happened? I was teaching classes, and nobody wanted to leave the class. The class was over. They had been with me for a time, and it's time for them to go. And they were like, oh, can we come work here? Can we have a chair here? So then I figured out my base was students. And these are people that needed my help and understanding. Then I figured out, okay, my sweet spot is that person that they've been working for a while in a salon, but they're tired. They want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't know how to run a salon. That's my sweet spot. Those are the people I go after. Those are people that love my business. And I'm providing a solution because they can come and own their own piece of the pie, and they don't have to worry about the hassle of the responsibility of a salon. Then they grow with me and I help them get a salon. So it's like, you have to be solving a problem. That's what I can say. And then people will flock to you, but you got to figure out what problem you're solving. Because just because I'm selling a cream or have a place to rent, that's not helping anyone. They can go anywhere, but you want to be specific and intentional with your with what you're doing.
Okay, I'm gonna go to our other question. And that question was from Candace Burgess. And then our next question is from Sister D Adams Bay. And she said, my husband and I want to open a restaurant. We have two questions. The first one is, how do you draw up a business plan? The other is, how do you generate finance to start the business?
Yeah, start cooking.
I'm a big proponent. I'm a huge proponent. If you get a brick and mortar, you better have earned that brick and mortar restaurant.
Exactly.
So, for example, I like to brag about her little cousin. They started selling some chicken wings at some frat party. Next thing you know, people asked to cater to chicken wings. Next thing you know, they bought a food truck. The line was, whatever location they said they were going to be out, the line was around the corner and out the block. Somebody came and gave them a building darn near.
Because they were creating a problem. They created a traffic backup problem. And so it was causing business problems in the area. So they created a problem, and someone came and gave them a business to get a truck out of the way.
So when she says start cooking, we mean it. They got Uber Eats. There are chefs right now that don't have jobs in kitchens in their restaurants anymore. So they're cooking in their home and delivering the food. And again, if you pair that with the previous question, now you've started your business, you know how to market it with these different apps, and you make a list of all your family and friends, make sure it's at least 200 and something people, and you start going after them and delivering them meals. That's how you do it. Start cooking. I love that.
Start cooking, sister. Yeah, and call me when you cook, because I like to eat.
And just for example, there's a brother that lives in DC, and every Thursday he makes a post on Instagram, and he sells Cajun shrimp pasta for like $15 a plate. So he cooks all day Thursday. He puts the post out. You send the money through Cash App, and then you go and pick it up, or he'll deliver it to your house. So it's just as simple of just coming up with one menu item, posting it on Instagram or on Facebook, talking to your friends and family, telling them what you're serving, telling how much it costs, set up a Cash App, let them pay you, pick it up or deliver it.
The mistake many of us have made is, let me get the business plan, let me get this, let me get that. It's not that it's wrong, but the point is, your business plan now, when you go to the bank and need a loan for that restaurant, your business plan is going to be your profits and loss sheet. You're going to show how much money you spend for your cost of goods sold and how much money you bringing in. The bank's going to see them numbers and give you a loan if you need it, if you haven't already saved up the money. In the commercial space that you're wanting to rent or building, if you're renting a space, they're going to ask for that and see, yes, these people can pay their rent. They have clientele. So your life is a lot easier if you just start cooking instead of trying to put together a menu, put together a plan, and then convince somebody to invest in it.
And then you're gonna find out if you really like cooking. That's the other thing.
It's the truth.
So you're, instead of going get all the money, go
Yes.
figure out if you even like having a restaurant, because that was my dream
Know
too.
thyself.
I wanted a restaurant. I went work for one. And I said, no, I don't want this no more. I'm not, throwing
Yes.
anyone's dreams. But I say if you haven't ever ran a restaurant, start cooking, and where people are dependent on you for food, and then see if you like that. You know what I mean?
If it's a hobby or a passion. Really.
Exactly.
We thought we wanted to get in the hotel business.
Oh.
We started doing vacation rentals. We found out, okay, this was fun for about 2 years.
Yeah. So.
We're not really wanting hotel business no more.
But
Party
yeah.
complex, yes, but no hotel business, no. So what if we had gotten a business plan, got the financing, got this big hotel, and then realized we don't like this? That's a lot of work.
Yep. Graduate from your house to a food truck, from a food truck to a restaurant, in that order.
Yes.
That's
please.
my advice.
Yes, mine too.
All right. So for our last question, I kind of want to merge it into me being your guinea pig. So the last question we have is from Sister T. Potter Bay. And I guess this kind of can answer my question is, after you decide what type of business is right for you, which I'm saying fashion styling is something I'm finally realizing that's what I love. That's what I want to do. What is your next step?
The next step is for you. You want us to answer it for you?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to style and fashion. The next step is you need to do it. Like start showing. No, when I say do it, I don't mean it in that way. I'm talking about start showing us what you can do. So pick out your best outfits and start taking pictures and showing them. You may want to order 1 or 2 pieces, right? And then just put it on and be your own model. Because I actually have a girlfriend of mine that's from my hometown. She owns I Marie Boutique. I love her because she started just like that. She did not have, when she first started, she was losing she told her whole story. She was losing her apartment. She was a single mom. She started having sipping shows right in her apartment where people were coming to her apartment and just trying on clothes. She had no lighting, no camera, nothing. She just was she would put on a cute outfit, take a picture and put it online. And all her friends and family, she would even send it out in text messages stuff. They started seeing it. Now she has a 4,000 square foot location. She is, her business is booming. It is amazing where she came and where she is. And so when you say that, I think that you are cut out for that. I love the way you dress. I like that, you're very stylish. Yeah. So I think you should start doing that. Like start just real small, like putting on certain outfits and offering your service to people that you can style them for different events. Put it out there.
And you can give what just you talked to me about, Sister Johnson, just to share it with Sister K. Jones Bay. What did one of your friends call and ask you to do? For how much?
Oh, so this morning I did get a phone call about an individual that was referred to me by a friend that I dressed for free, and she asked for my services, and she asked if she could put me on retainer. So
that's right. Yeah.
So she pays me monthly.
And she'll put her on retainer, and she sends her so many designs of outfits.
4 outfits a month for $120 per month. Yeah.
So that's a specific answer to that question. In general, you find a way to monetize it. I love the internet. Get on YouTube and start looking for inspirational stories of people that have done it, because you're going to find stories like Sister K. Jones Bay just talked about.
And then box subscriptions is a big thing in that world. So you can have box subscriptions, like where they get 3 pieces a month and they're on a subscription every month. So they get something new. And guess who your audience is? Us. Because guess what my problem is? I can't find any Moorish costumes. I have to go make up things and buy Indian things. You could start with just pretty turbans, and you can get subscriptions of turbans. You got all these sisters in the sister auxiliary, and guess what? We will pay it. I'm one of them. So as soon as you have that ready, let me know so that I can join the turban subscription. The other thing is making, costumes and stuff. Start there because that's your base. And then those customers, because we wear regular clothes too, will be your customers. So you can start with, and you love this organization. You are such a good example. You
Oh,
work very hard in this organization, even though I don't get to tell you that we are watching you, and we do see you and we see what you do for the organization. So why not start in the place that you love? You love this place. You do. I can tell. And you do everything for the Moorish, you know, you do it with the Moorish Science Temple of America. You do it with the passion. So, I mean, it would be so interchangeable. It would be.
Amen.
And Pretty Turbans,
Wow.
hey, subscription for Turban Sisters coming to you
Yes.
soon by
Yes.
Sister John.
Very good thought.
Johnson Hill.
Names. She makes up the best names.
Perfect. I'm taking notes on that.
Wow.
We are closing out. It's 8:02 at the end of our session, and I would always, as we always do, let's leave them with some last words of 30 seconds of what you want to close with. How do you want to inspire people on what their next steps should be if they're looking to be an entrepreneurship or trying to find the passion in their life?
We know thyself. We said that before. So know thyself. Surround yourself with like-minded people. And even if that, and make sure that also includes looking for new information. The internet is a great tool for it. YouTube the stories of people that have accomplished what you like and what you're wanting to do. See the ones that have started it with no money. And just look at your strengths and figure out how to monetize it. You have to do something a little more than you wanted to in the beginning to accomplish your goals, so be it. And don't forget the Holy Koran. Toil should be a joy. Make sure you understand you're building that dream. Hold that dream in your mind. I believe in visualization, manifestation. The prophet teaches us a lot. So hold on to your teachings, use them for inspiration, and just don't stop. Take that next step. The next one will come. You don't have to always know exactly every step. Just have a little faith and watch it manifest.
I'm going to leave you with the 4 P's, and this is something that I live by at this point, or try to, and that is prayer, peace, positivity, and prosperity. And it's in a specific order because that's how it works. If we pray and I'm saying meditate and prayer, it's going to bring us peace. When you're in a peaceful place, you can be more positive. And when you're positive, prosperity just happens. That is just something that flows in your life. So in the past, I've tried to do it backward, but trying to be all prosperous and all this. No, you have to get to a peaceful place, have a lot of gratitude, and everything will flow. It will flow so easy. And that's one of our principles. So that should be a easy one, the peace part. It's not unfamiliar. So I want to leave with that, the 4 P's.
Praise Allah. So just for me, just kind of talking about what I'm learning, and I've always been in the mindset of always chasing something outside of myself, like looking for my future outside of me. And what I'm learning is that your future is within. Everything that Allah has blessed us with is all inside of you. And I'm learning how to tap into those attributes that He has provided me with to find my future, to find things that make me happy, to find prosperity and the things that you stated. So I say to the audience, take the time out to dig in deep into yourself and find the things that you love, to surround yourself around people that you love, that love you, and that are all on the same mission that we all are. A better condition for ourselves, uplifting fallen humanity, and loving each other and being happy. And with that, I want to close out and thank you all for attending, and thank you for coming to Moor Perspective. Our next episode will be next week, and Sister Kay Jones Bay will be gracing us with her presence once again to talk about some investment opportunities based on real estate. So feel free to tune in, and we hope to see you next week, same time, Thursday, 7 o'clock. Peace.
Love you.